Welcome to Weaving New Paths, Conversations with Visionaries. I'm your host, Grandmother Sharon Raji Maynard. Each week, we sit with individuals who followed a calling, who turned idea into healing, creativity, and change. Their stories remind us that every dream matters. You matter. And that new pathways are being woven every day. Thank you for joining us. Let's step into today's conversation. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Weaving New Paths, Conversations with Visionaries. I'm Sharon Raji Maynard, honored to be your host today. Now, somewhere in the fabric of our lives, there is a first whisper, a moment when something larger than you rushes your awareness and asks to be born through you. Our guest today, Sande Hart, knows about those whispers. She's listened, she's followed, and in doing so, she's created new paths, more than one. And as you listen to her story, you may feel your own whisper stirring again. That is my hope. So welcome, Sande. I'm so glad to be able to sit with you in conversation and sharing.
It's such an honor to sit at your hem when I get to and to share this space with you here. What an honor. Thanks,
Yeah,
Sharon. Thank you
you're
so
welcome.
much.
Absolutely. What I'm going to have Sande begin with is to tell us a bit about her organization, the Global Women's Village. So, what the spark was that led to Global Village, and where did that? That's the big thing. I was just gonna say, where did that begin? And I'm going like, whoa, that opened the door.
Have to rewind the clock about 26 years. And it wasn't a whisper, although sometimes it's a whisper that we get to learn to listen to or honor or trust. This was a bellowing horn. The morning of 9/11, I heard loud and clear, gather the women, gather women. I didn't know anything about gathering women. I was the director of sales and marketing for a major home builder and busy middle school mom, soccer mom, basketball mom. I was wrapped up in their lives and my work, and that was existence for myself and my charmed existence with my lovely family, and so, but I said yes, and I got out of bed that morning. That was the morning of 9/11, where I saw what everybody else was seeing, and my 2 feet hit the floor, and I said, "What did I just say yes to?" And next thing I know, and long story short, I found myself in a room of community people who were brought together by the Human Relations Commission to address the tensions of the community. And I'm like, well, maybe these are the women I'm supposed to gather. And so pulled them aside, and they all just, and before I could finish my question about, do you think we deserve our own conversation? They said yes, wholeheartedly. And a month or so later, I had a room full of women of diverse traditions and faiths, because this is very much religiously and culturally and traditions that were being really challenged, particularly in the Muslim community and the tensions between them and the rest of the community. And so I wanted to hear from Muslim women. I didn't know any was Muslim women, but we pulled together this really diverse living room full of women. And one meeting after another grew into another, grew into another, grew into us realizing that, wow, dialogue is necessary, action is essential. We went into the community and we became the mothers of the community. We were called on for panel discussions. We were called on to um, show up at the front at the steps of the Gurdwara or the mosque or the synagogue with candles and song in hand when there was a senseless attack on anybody's community. And so that led us to really launching the compassion movement in Orange County, because by then I was part of the Charter for Compassion Initiative. And I started the women and girls sector there and led that for quite a while. And we decided to create cities of compassion, city by city, until we could say California was a state of compassion. I'm giving you the very abridged version here. And we, in 2018, although I stepped away because my organization, which was then called SARA, the
Yeah.
Spiritual and Religious Science for Hope, was our focus should have been more on our work as women interfaith leaders in the community. And this grew bigger than that. And I pulled myself out and it was in 2021, I think, that California affirmed with a unanimous vote at the state level that California is the first state of compassion in the world.
Wow.
Yeah. And so
2000.
that was simply just waking up and saying yes. And it wasn't hard. It was saying yes to what wanted to happen. Nobody said, "Oh, we're paving new paths." I never thought I'm doing anything out of the ordinary by following the needs of what wants to happen next.
Yeah.
So it's always come kind of natural to me. That's an example of some of the new paths that have been carved that I've been a part of,
Mm.
or I have led. So yeah.
So that inner voice on that morning, because I remember, as most people do, the 2001, wasn't it, not after the 9/11, and that chaos that occurred at that point. For me, having been in energy work for many years by then, for me it was a horrendous act and an opportunity to do something different. And what I felt throughout those that I had been working with, traveling to teach, etc., there's that aliveness that had before that been very vibrant, to learn, to know, not out of fear and not out of horrendous action, but excitement to learn
Yeah.
was there. And then that happened, and that excitement to learn began. Oh my gosh, could we change the way we do life? Can we change the way we do life? And what I felt, and we all have really good stories around that, of how people may have been called to do that. But
Mhm.
when we invaded Iraq, that energy dropped. And I felt it. I talked to other presenters who had been traveling, very involved with that aliveness dropped, like, oh my gosh, an opportunity missed. And so the example of you listening, you didn't know what that meant. Gather the women, what does that mean? And yet you put the voice out there, and there were women who responded. I love that, because there's something about, very importantly, I think, about the women gathering, talking, discussing. I mean, they became the mothers of the in the community. How did that happen? That you were part of and involved with those different situations.
Right.
You couldn't have done that without bigger help, the magic, of that, the bigger voice, the bigger plan. Who knows what it's called?
I
But
think that all of those women who were saying yes, and all of the community, including men,
yes.
who pulled us in or invited us to speak or showed up at our community. We also did the compassion games in our community. I mean, we just had a lot of fun, and that had a lot to do with it. We always said we were doing heavy lifting with the light heart because we
Mm-hmm.
made it fun. But I think that was alive in everybody. It wasn't the few that knew how to orchestrate and actually actualize a vision, which
Mm-hmm.
I just happened to be, equipped with. But that wasn't anything I learned. It was something that
You
so
were.
I'm comfortable. But I couldn't, of course, have that actualizing part
No.
if it weren't for everybody like feeling it too and going,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I have a part to play. I'm not an actualizer, but I sure am the support system. I will
Mm-hmm.
sure be there by your side or blowing in your cells or, I kind of try to push them up front and they like pull back. So it's like, okay. Um, but that's what we could do for one another. So yeah, and we are in these times right now. And now it's the confluence of the cosmos, which I would love to hear you and, respond to. And those entities that are saying, come along, darling, come
Mm-hmm.
home to
Mm-hmm.
mother. Yeah. And we're here in a different way. Yeah.
as it occurs to me, the similarity between then and now isn't missed. Of course, what's happening in our country there and the world is very horrific. We don't need to talk much about that. It's very horrific, and it is giving an opportunity for a new way as all things begin to look very ugly and breaking up. And my sense is that the step is local. Like I was looking in after 9/11, I was working on this, what we're doing across the country and across the world, and it didn't happen at that level. But what you're now bringing to my awareness is how it dropped into community level and happened there. And
Yeah.
I think that's really important now, because maybe a lot of us are looking for the bigger picture to change so that we can be happy. But the bigger picture is still doing this and dropping into, okay, then what does my community, where do I fit into this community to make that which I vision and hope for my children, grandchildren? How do I participate in that women's village, that global village that's more local? And it happened as you explained to me how that happened, even after 9/11.
Yes. And you
Seeds.
said, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, it's like the seeds.
Yeah.
That's how it happened, and they're not gone.
Oh, I love that you brought in the seed analogy because when we plant a seed that we don't know what the seed is, but our job is to be its sacred gardener and listen to what it needs. It needs more
Mm-hmm,
water, it needs more sunlight, it needs our love, it needs our breath, and whatever it needs, we have no idea where that seed is going to grow into. And
mm-hmm,
and that brings up what I was going to say anyway, and that is that that's the colonizer's mindset, that we have a clear vision of where we are going
mm-hmm,
and we know how to get there.
mm-hmm,
Yeah,
mm-hmm,
you have a vision, you've got an idea, but you're wide open to what really wants to happen. And that is actually probably the smartest thing that we did as a team when we started pulling together women in rooms
mm-hmm,
at global assemblies. And that is what was another big turning point for us. And it couldn't have happened if we weren't constantly checking ourselves.
mm-hmm,
Or, wait a minute, is this our idea? What really wants to happen? And getting our way with that. But
mm-hmm,
that those questioning assumptions about and catching ourselves, that's a highly patriarchal, hierarchical way of
mm-hmm,
viewing our work
mm-hmm,
that we are, I think, growing out of. We're coming back into circle rather than the up and down,
mm-hmm.
leadership model. In 2015, I was part of a small group of women that organized about 90 people to come into circle, women to come into circle in advance of the 2015 Parliament of the World's Religions in Salt Lake City.
Yes.
And what we were there to talk about was what is it we're going to bring to that highly patriarchal environment?
Yeah.
The sterile
Yeah.
cold halls of a conference center, the rows of people listening to the authority at the top of the room. And of course, there's ritual in a marketplace, and there's assemblies, and there's a lot of dynamics. It was really a beautiful experience back then. And then we left that. So, oh, also, what is it that prevents us from speaking up? Why what is our sacred task? What is our planetary assignment?
Mm-hmm,
That's
mm-hmm.
what we talked about for about 4 hours before climbing out of that basement of the church
Yeah.
that we met in, walking down the street and going into the women's assembly, the first one of its kind that I felt it. I'm like, oh, I'm a different woman. I feel emboldened. I feel equipped. We all walked around with our shoulders. We'd see each other run and we'd run into one another's arms in the middle of a crowd. There was something very potent that happened
Mm-hmm.
there. So here comes the next parliament in Toronto.
Yes.
And I say, hey, organizers, let's do this again. They said, we're not going to do it. You go do it with our blessing. And we did it again. Now we're in a lovely ballroom of an adjacent hotel, morning of the opening ceremonies, 200 women, small circles. just an extra, all of that's on our website. Just another dynamic, wonderful event in the same model that we did before. So we know we have a proof of concept and it works. So let's do it again. And and the same impact, women were
Yeah.
saying, now we have 200 women, not 90. So now I'm on the women's task force of the Chicago Parliament, and I said, let's not do this before the Parliament. Let's do this inside the Parliament. And I was granted almost 1,400 square feet in a main foyer.
Hmm.
My own team raised our own money as a team. And for a year, just about a year, we planned and we met every week. We planned what it would look like to bring that space, what we did in those rooms now for a whole week in the parliament. And we created the first ever women's village with the exact same dynamics, the same topics. We had a red tent room, we had an earth altar, we had elements of nature, mother tree. Again, please see our website because the video of it, you can really get your arms around it when you see what we did there. And so at that point leading up to this, Sharon, I was listening carefully to what wanted to happen for our organization because I'm wondering if we were done. It was
Hmm.
people were locally, at the local level, people were petering out,
Hmm.
going off in their own way. We lost momentum because I was so focused on this, and that's what happens when there is a sole leader again
Yes.
in that way.
Yes.
Even though we had a great team, but everyone was waiting for me to say, "Let's go do this." And that's a lesson learned. So, as I'm in the village, I don't know how else to explain this, but I had this hollow rod experience. And suddenly my feet were off the ground. Wind was blowing my hair off my shoulders. There was no windows down there where we were. I felt different. The veil had been lifted. I could see drama. I could see love. I could see all of that was going all around me. I felt like I was in one of those movies where everything
Yeah.
is spinning around you and you're just like looking at it all. It was so surreal. I was just walking to the bathroom. And this happened. And I'm like, okay, I get on an airplane and I'm like, I sit down, put my seatbelt down. I'm like, I know what's next for the Sarah. Came home. We changed our name to the Global Women's Village. And
Yes.
we DNA, it's in our DNA that we are interfaithful, but that's not our focus. Our focus is women who future a new paradigm. And that's the trajectory. That was the process. I couldn't have planned it. It had to plan me. And that's
Yeah.
what happened.
You had to listen
Yeah.
to a field that was wanting to be born and manifest, but that field of energy, the field of possibilities, the field of vision requires those of us in a physical bodysuit to bring it into manifestation.
Yeah.
And the opportunity to do that might show up to various might have that, and some will listen and it will manifest uniquely in their way. It manifested for you in this way because of who you are, what your capacity is, the nature you are, and listening to that field and trusting that field is critical to where we want our world to go. That vision of collaborative partnership requires the voices of not just brainstorming to brainstorm to get people on board your idea. It's brainstorming because this is how I'm hearing it, and this is how I'm hearing it, and this is how I'm hearing it. And I think unique to the way a female brain works is the ability, if we get out of competition, to let all of the ideas sit on the table, and then that field enriched by ideas of multiples shows
Mm.
up uniquely, where with hierarchical, and I think I'm sure there are times when that has been a needful, let's get out of this danger place and we've got to follow the leader. There's times when that's been necessary. But in building what's new and what the possibilities that have never manifested before, it really requires that woman brain to let ideas flow and coalesce and talk to one another, and that respect and that listening, and that all of a sudden something shows up, and there's like, that's the next. And
Yeah.
and that's unique, I think, from what I understand, to a woman's brain.
Yeah.
If if I brought my uh, information to it, because I come from a more of a galactic energy perspective, is it was always the woman, the soul in a female body's job to say, I'm here. I'm here. And so because I'm here, I'm going to tend this space that's my space. It might be my body and my home and my family. And because I'm going to, hold this space, it's also my responsibility to decree the qualities of that space, and the qualities of respect or joy and compassion or whatever is what this space is going to manifest in whatever way they manifest. And then safeguarding it is what women's chakra, I'll say the chakra system, the power center of Sophia, the solar plexus, what that says, this is what I'm feeling, is so critical. And what I'm feeling here is going to destroy my family. And what had happened eons ago is that power center unplugged. So we knew what might destroy our family, but we had no the original plan to be able to eliminate that energy was unplugged, basically. And so we couldn't say this will destroy my family and have it removed. We couldn't safeguard it in the way that we can now. So all of that you're speaking to is like re- reclaiming the mothering, which is the values, then the birthing and bringing into form. We birth that, and then we hold true to that. We hold true to those values. And if something isn't that, we do what we need to do to eliminate within ourselves that which would destroy. And and this is the point where this is unique in all, I think, all of human history for that opportunity.
It makes such beautiful, elegant sense and truth. And I find that a lot of women will get that. They won't know how. I can speak for myself, applying it in real time, applying that and remembering that when I'm walking around in my human suit, going to the market or dealing with a difficult family member or a neighbor or whatever the case may be. I have
Yeah.
wonderful neighbors, by the way. Um, that we also at the Global Women's Village, we also recognize that we have our work to do.
Yes.
Our work to do in looking at our generational trauma that it may not necessarily be our family, although who is free of that, and also the trauma of what it means to be a woman on this planet up until now, and
Mm,
why haven't we evolved to that place of awareness, and what is that, again, that colonialized perspective, and what have we done to contribute to it?
mhm,
And
mm,
so that we can then become the architects and then grok, then get that, then believe it. And we
yeah.
have to hear these things simultaneously.
Right.
We do. And your message is so important because you remind us of the larger reality.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I think it's an example of what you have done,
right.
and has changed energy, has created energy, and is available for those who don't even know why they're following this model. And if they talk to you, they go like, "Oh, you're the grandmother of that model." You know what I mean? It's like not every woman is going to have to go through what you went through to
Right.
learn, to apply, and to come to a place where they can do the same work in their way that you're doing. And
Yeah.
the same is true with me. I'm really clear that we are in a portal time. Like when you spoke of that lifting, I went, oh my gosh, there was the portal and there's the Stargate. And your portal opened up to a Stargate, a different dimension that you were able to experience for a time. And because that is happening literally in energy, people do not have to go through the years that it took me to unwind what was not true based on power over.
Yeah.
That where we are is now broadcast, and people all of a sudden are doing standing and saying, I'm clear and I'm not going to be treated that way. Or
Yeah.
no, that's not the way I want. There is a learning going on beyond our mental consciousness that is going to be super fun to watch, is all I
Yeah.
say. I'm going to read this from your website because this is so what's true for me. And I'm not going to read it all, but go to the website will be linked. It's time for women to accept their role as architects of the future. We are the ones who birth culture. We birth projects. We birth policy. And that's what we have. That's why we are so dangerous to those who want to have power over. Architects of the future to reimagine and co create a system that works for everyone. And that system is partnership. I call it collaboration, but it's the same, just a different word.
Oh, it's partnership. It's actually partnerism. And Dr. Riane Eisler's been a mentor of mine for
Mm-hmm.
20 years, so 2 decades, and now a friend. And I completely, and we've adopted many of her cornerstones of what a system of partnership looks like. And she's theorized this, she's challenged it. That's got great merit at institutional levels, and universities are studying it.
Yes.
And so the Center for Partnership Systems is where you can go learn more about partnerism, but and how we adopt it is essential. It's very simple.
Mm-hmm.
Very simple. Language, narrative, family and gender relations, economic relations, and oh my gosh, have I completely forgotten? I actually have I've completely forgotten the fourth. Oh, and a caring democracy. So
Turn your head, it puts you into a different channel. Get back to
I
where
say
you're headed.
I talk about it so much, and there's some block about it.
Yes.
But anyway, language and narrative is a big one for us too. Shift
Yeah.
narrative. So yeah,
It's,
that's how we
yeah. I
communicate.
mean, just going back to the Parliament of World Religions, where it was in 2009
Yeah.
and where it is after Chicago is night and day. I mean, that was a set patriarchal diminishing of women, and women came in. You saw that, you participated, and it's a huge difference. Now, that's what our world needs. Is it does need what women naturally are in the way they view a bigger picture and how everybody relates and what can be good for everyone, impact of each other.
Mhm.
So talk a little bit more about the village, what where you're at now, but do you, what's the sense and
Well,
then how
first,
people can get involved, that kind of thing.
we have a couple of really juicy things coming up that that are not ready for prime time, which I'm so frustrated not to be able to share. But
Yeah, okay.
yeah, join us, come into our monthly sacred circles, participate. We're welcoming leadership. We're welcoming your skills and your talents and what you bring to the table, where your level of expertise is, how you're an expert in your life. Be
Mhm.
an expert in my life or anyone else's life. Come and bring that expertise here. Once you look and make sure that you resonate with us at globalwomensvillage.org. And I do want to say something about spaces like the Parliament, that the reason I wanted that village there, and I think it's important to come back to that for 1 second, and that is because even without the village as a presence, there were still only 40 workshops for women. There was still only one assembly, maybe two. Um, and um, and it was almost like, you girls just go over here and have your conversations, or you will give you this little thing, and the
Yeah.
rest, nothing has changed. And it's until, and that's why we are working on a global women's assembly to do
Mhm.
a significant gathering in the model of what we brought not only to Chicago, but to every event. And we also did it at the Commission on the Status of Women at the UN. We've also
Mhm.
brought that model to a couple of other places.
Yeah.
And there's talks in it going to, and it will be going to a university this next year. So we are bringing that model around. So that's something we really want your leadership and your support, or your, however you can come. If you want to carry boxes, we can use all the help we can get. Come and help.
Yes,
Be with
yes.
us.
I think that women traditionally, and I think it's because of specific injuries in the past from my work, have chosen to hide their light to be safe, to force you to hide your light for us to be safe, to compete with you, harem mentality, because if you're the favorite, my children are out on the streets with me. So all of those old traditional experiences that have been stored in our mass psyche are being intentionally dissolved, removed, reshaped so that the line from our genetic original mothers who were collaborative, who were partnering, who did birth with joy and were solid in that there's a new energy coming forward for women. And so the competition that we used to see with women, my thing is better than your thing, even though they're collaborative, even though it could support each other, that's on this new field that is beginning to be possible. It's yours. And oh wow, and here's what I'm doing. And it's not like I have to push against you to get you out or you to get me out. It's like, great, keep going where you're going. Because I'm in Lebanon and I'm over here in Astoria, and wherever we are doing, we're doing the same work, holding and anchoring the same energy vision. And it's this and this and this and this and this. In 2012, there was another political run, and nobody was calling the women together. And I knew women's values, that's what our government and everything else should be based on. So when I was going to say, well, I was complaining about that to my team, and my team, I call them the ancient ones and more, said, well, if you think I mean, if there's not going to be a women's Congress, what about you? Why don't you call one? So, the same with gather the women. So I said, well, of course I will then, and invited women that I knew from various parts of the country to come to Seattle. March 12th, I think it was the 12th, we gathered with the first grassroots women's congress to spend the weekend with the total intention of saying to these women, as representative of women, what values do you declare life, family, government are to be based on?
Hmm.
That was an amazing experience, and they came up with the values. And then before we walked away, not even my intention, they had a mission, a vision, the values, the intentions. They had written it all, and that has stood. And one of the women said to me, "I think now we need to take action on this." And my guidance was, it's not mine to take action on right now, but they have laid there underpinning. So all the different pieces, it's just they're there, and it is time, because it is, we know how to birth.
There is action there, not to dismiss the action the actual physical action you want to do, but there is action there. It is happening. It's happening through every individual
Yeah,
woman in her daily life.
yeah.
It's like you had an event that nothing happened well, or we did things at the Compassion Games that we didn't think were sustainable because things kind of, like, we had another big issue in our world, and I called the interfaith community and I'm like, why aren't we talking? We worked for 20 years to build these relationships, and now Lebanon and Israel and Palestine, why aren't the imams and the rabbis talking?
Mm-hmm.
And like, what was all that for? And I didn't get a response, but from one Muslim leader, and oh, it's just too difficult. And it's, are you waiting for the women to do it for you? But I can say that there are still a lot of relations that are still existing. So we look there. And
Yes, exactly.
that's what we can do.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And in my model, it is for the women to do the design, and here's where we're going to have the garden. This is where we're going to have the playground. And this is the way the colors in the house. And the men are the heart nurturers. And they say, where can I bring my muscle? Where can I bring my resource? So when we wait for them to do a vision, their vision is going to be based on their ability to be very focused, maybe in one thing, and that therefore hierarchical. But we have the vision, and then the men come with their heart energy and strength to help make it occur and happen.
You're right. You're right. You're so right.
So thank you for being a part of this circle, Sandy. I love having you in my life, and hearing and knowing a little bit more about what you're doing and sharing that has been really an honor to me. So listeners, may you feel inspired to follow the threads that are tugging at you. Don't ignore. Let them lead your weavings to see what it is they want to become. Trust the stirrings. They are the beginning of a new world that's longing to be born through your hands. That is an example. Thank you, my love. And
a blessing.
All of the contact for Sandy at the Global Women's Village will be right here in the details.
Thank you, Sharon.
Blessings.
At your hem.
Yeah, same here. Bye, love.
Bye.
And to our valued listeners, thank you for being with us here in the sacred space of sovereignty, inquiry, and inspiration. As you explore our guests' work, may you also feel the quiet stirring of your own gift, asking to come alive. The world is shifting, and your unique thread of weaving is essential in that great tapestry. If this conversation nourished you, inspired you, pass it along to others who are seeking hope, direction, and also dreaming a new world into being. We invite you back for the next episode of Weaving New Paths, where together we will continue opening the doors to new ways of seeing, being, and collaborating. Until then, blessings.